We have a major Toronto Raptors trade update as for weeks. We've been hearing about the Raptors getting involved in the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. Of course, not to actually land Jimmy Butler themselves, but to facilitate that move and him going to a different team. And now reports are escalating about a 3-team deal involving the Toronto Raptors, the Miami Heat, as well as the Golden State Warriors in a deal that would send homegrown Canadian talent Andrew Wiggins to Toronto. So we're going to break down what these reports are saying, what it means to the Toronto Raptors, whether or not it makes sense for this team, and other options that can be built off of this type of framework that makes it make sense for the Toronto Raptors. So lots of stuff to break down in this video, but before we do, folks, again, if you guys are a part of the 67% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet and you want to stay up to date with everything going on with this Toronto Raptors team, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button because we're covering all of the latest trade chatter, trade updates regarding the teams, of course, all the games and stuff, the usual regularly scheduled programming, but it has just been a crazy past week for the Toronto Raptors, and we get a ton of stuff dropping pretty well every single day. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. But let's dive into it because this game is a pretty wild sort of trade scenario for the Toronto Raptors. For many weeks, we've heard about the Jimmy Butler stuff. Like, this isn't some novel information. Jimmy Butler's trying to force his way out of Miami, and the Phoenix Suns are the team he's trying to force himself to. Now, apparently he wants to go anywhere but anywhere but Miami, and then that turned to anywhere but Miami or the Memphis Grizzlies, and then that turned into anywhere but Miami and the Memphis Grizzlies and the Sacramento Kings. So you can see how this list can adjust. Jimmy Butler wants to go to a contender that's in a big city that's going to pay him long-term money, getting him some bread beyond his current contract. So Jimmy Butler's forcing his way out. That team is getting more and more desperate. They just suspended him. So Masai Ujiri, given our current crop, our group of players, he's trying to get in there and facilitate this trade. So Matt Moore of HB Basketball has essentially come out and said that one framework, two sources described as Golden State's hope involved Andrew Wiggins going out in the deal, either directly to Toronto or rerouted to Toronto from Miami for Bruce Brown. If Wiggins does not sound like a significant piece, as Mark Stein reported on to you, well, he's not. But what he is a contract that they can package with other things. So this is interesting. This is very, very interesting because if you're not familiar, if you haven't heard all the reports, you haven't been keeping up to date with all the vids, basically, the big news, the big chatter, the big rumblings, the Toronto Raptors want to add a significant piece to this Raptors core for, to build alongside Scottie Barnes. Whether it's now, whether it's in the future, they use pretty ambiguous language. They're trying to gas up, the trade value, especially with all the wins the Raptors have been having as of late. The Toronto Raptors are trying to make sure they can get rid of their assets without having to, being deleveraged in these types of situations. And Andrew Wiggins, of course, is not that significant piece. We can take a look at his stats. He's a big name. He won an NBA championship and stuff. But basically, Andrew Wiggins this year is averaging 17 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 2.3 assists. 38% from the three-point line, 44% to corner threes. He's playing with Steph Curry. He's playing with, he's a pretty focal point in that offense. But he is not that guy that you'd look at and say, hey, he is game-changing for the Toronto Raptors. Would help out in the defensive end, but I'm not sold is that much of an upgrade over a guy like Bruce Brown. And of course, the stats are better for Andrew Wiggins, but feel for the game, just fit, Wiggins is better, but the contract situation stuff is something we'll also take a look at. So Matt Moore is essentially coming out and saying that he is a contract that they can package and other things. I mean, that's the point of having Bruce Brown there. But the thing about it is, the only way I'm intrigued by this deal is if the Raptors get assets attached on top of Andrew Wiggins. Because Bruce Brown himself, right, he's been pretty good for us. I don't think the Raptors are in desperate need to just get off of him and, take on some bad contracts, take on some bad salary. Because, frankly, Andrew Wiggins' salary is bad. He's making $26 million per year this year, $28 million per year the year after, and then $30 million till 2027. There's 3 years on that contract. The player option, he's probably going to pick it up just given his current. The state of the NBA with all the cap nerves that everyone has on the go, and then, of course, Andrew Wiggins very much stagnating as a basketball player. It's he's picking up that. So you assume he's on a 3-year contract at significant money, and then that really hurts the Raptors' flexibility in terms of being able to make moves, and honestly keeps us kind of close to that tax as Scottie Barnes' contract starts to come into fruition for future seasons. So everything we're talking about, teams being hamstrung by the cap, right? The Raptors are putting themselves in that situation, and they don't really have that roster that really warrants, those types of things. So Andrew Wiggins, you take on that burden, so you need some draft capital. You need something in return in order to, be incentivized to make one of these moves happen. Now, of course, the Raptors, they're not trying to compete, I don't imagine. Maybe they were, and they're surprising us every night in, night out. I mean, we're on a 5-game win streak here now at this point, but the Golden State Warriors have a bunch of draft picks that they can attach in some of these deals. They basically have all of their first, going forward, so 25, 26, 27. There's a lot of draft picks that they can throw out there. They have a couple seconds. So again, I don't think we should expect multiple first-round picks to take on the salary of Andrew Wiggins, who is still a rotation piece. He's not unplayable out there for his team, but there is an option. There is sort of a direction where, hey, you look at this and you say, hey, Andrew Wiggins, what are we doing? What are we doing out here with this team, with this future group? So what are the Warriors willing to do? What is Masai Ujiri capable of kind of getting out of Andrew Wiggins here now at this point, his crazy salary and stuff like that there? Well, the Golden State Warriors have kind of alluded to what they'd be willing to give up, whether in a Jimmy Butler trade or not. So basically, the Golden State Warriors are dangling a protected version of their first-round pick, 2025 first-round pick for the right player. The Warriors are nearly $6 million above the luxury tax line, and they are thought to perhaps duck it and help reset the repeater clock considering their current path. So the fact that they're willing to dangle their 2025 first, again, with some protection, so if things do hit the fan this season, then they're not, hurting, and then they land Cooper Flag, and it's this. But the Warriors are projected to kind of be a play-in, playoff team, so if the protections on that are light, and of course, it doesn't turn into second-round picks moving out there in the future, a first-round pick to take on Wiggins' salary, who still is a solid player, I mean, especially considering the trajectory of this Raptors group, who we'll see how quickly they're good. Wiggins can have an impact on the team for the future. I'm not super opposed to that, and especially where his deal then is like a 2-year deal. It gets better and better. Realistically, he's an expiring contract at the end of next season. So that's when, if things are messy, things are getting bad, he's in a Bruce Brown situation to where teams are just going to be wanting to make a move for him in order to get off of a specific salary. So, and the cap's going up, so $30 million is not $30 million as it's now or 2 years ago and things like that. So I'm not completely opposed to, this kind of framework, this kind of deal going down now if the Toronto Raptors are well compensated with especially first-round picks. For just seconds, again, I'm not super intrigued. I'd want it off of Bruce Brown and then get something else on top of it, but I don't know. I don't think the Raptors are desperate enough to be like, hey, we need to take on bad salary just to get off Bruce Brown's contract, so we have something. We do something at that point. So, again, don't be surprised if Wiggins comes in, he gets rerouted. He'd probably come off the bench for this team, so I'm not sold on him as a super important long-term fit, but we'll see. There's a lot of moving pieces right now for the Toronto Raptors. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys are the best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing now. Cheers.